Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Clockedin with me, your host, Jordan Edwards. I'm thrilled to have you tune in as we dive into the dynamic world of productivity, success, and stories of incredible individuals who've mastered the art of getting things done. Whether you're commuting, hitting the gym, or just relaxing at home, this podcast is the go-to source for inspiration and actionable tips to level up your productivity game. I'm on a mission to unravel the secrets of those who seem to effortlessly manage their time and achieve their goals. So if you're ready to clock in and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. We've got a lineup of amazing guests, industry experts, and thought leaders who will share their insights and strategies to help us crush your to-do list and make the most out of every moment. Get ready to get inspired, motivated, and equipped with the tools you need to supercharge your productivity. This is Clockedin with Jordan Edwards. Let's dive in. Hey, what's going on, guys? I got a special guest here today. We have Cass Haley. He's a talented singer-songwriter with a soulful voice and a gift for creating music that combines different genres and influences. I also want to note that I saw Cass about 2 years ago now. And when I went in, I didn't even know who Cass was. I was like, who is this? What's going on? It was in Rock Brothers Tampa, and it was an incredible experience. It was different than any other performer I've ever seen. And that's why I really wanted to have Cass on. So, Cass, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Thanks for the intro. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So where did your journey start?
So I'm from Paris, Texas, raised here, and I still live here. My parents are both musicians. They were like kind of teenagers of the 60s, and my dad, had been, my entire life, my dad was always sort of pursuing a side hustle with music. He wanted to make it his normal thing, but, just how life goes. He had 5 kids. So he also had a construction business and poured concrete. So growing up, man, it was music and construction for me, learning the guitar, learning and performing with my parents, and also learning how to dig a hole in the ground and pour some concrete. And so that's my roots, very country. We lived on a little backwoods kind of farm about 10, 15 miles outside of town. And, my parents were, like I said, they were teenagers of the late 60s and really in that hippie vibe. So they had built this barn where they would have these kind of little festival kind of quarterly parties. And it had a full stage and a full PA. And that's where I learned how to play music, was on a stage. My entire life, I had a stage there that, was separated from our little, 1-bedroom A-frame. And it was pretty wild. My parents prioritized things very differently. Like, we didn't have running water. We had a cistern with an outdoor shower and an outhouse for a long time. But yet we had a barn with a stage and a PA. And it's like they prioritized this kind of space, which was really cool and really interesting. So, that's my roots, man. Country.
That gives you a fascinating perspective, though, because from most people growing up, it's who'd you surround yourself with, who affected you, who brought you up. And most of the time it's like, hey, dad and mom had to go to work. Maybe mom would stay at home, went to school, did our thing. Yeah. We're talking about outhouses here. We got our own studio. We got our own presentation. It's incredible.
Yeah, they were really interesting. Like, they were definitely like on the fringe, like they were nice folks, but they weren't really a part of your normal kind of life. They always instilled in me of like, hey, be who you are. They never once ever questioned, my pursuit in music or arts or anything. They were like, if you can't pay your bills, okay, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. You're gonna be okay. So that gave me like, the courage and kind of the mindset going into this, just to be brave enough, to not have all these kind of pressures and stress. And I really give credit to them for instilling that in me, even though there is some like, there is some things that in my life, there was some irresponsible kind of things with that too. You know what I mean? Where it was like, I raised my kids somewhat similar, but a little bit different, of like the best of both worlds. Like, it's great to take care of these relationships, and you do want to have a nice place to live and AC and all that stuff. But, it really gave me the mindset to pursue this, especially in the first like 10, 15 years of me doing this, because it's brutal. It's the whole world's telling you can't do it. So I give it to them, man, for giving me that spirit of like, it's no big deal. What's important is that you're following your dreams and your bliss, and that's going to lead you to you finding yourself.
Yeah. That's so important, because anyone who's listening right now, parents, children, anybody, because the important thing is to realize that kids hear no so often, to the point where it goes, what can I do? What am I allowed to do? And your parents were the complete opposite, where it's, Cass, do your thing.
Yeah. And I always say that they were like the kings of natural consequence, where they were like, even in regards to like partying. I mean, like I said, they were from the 60s. They definitely were like weekend warriors. When they would go out and play, they would drink, and my dad always smoked marijuana. And with me, like, they educated me on all of these substances and behaviors, and they said, look, you're going to get the chance to probably do everything and anything. And they gave me 2 rules. They said, Cass, you can try whatever you want. These are the things that are super. I know it's crazy, right? They're like, you can try whatever you want, but these are the things that are super dangerous. And these are the differences. Don't get in a car on anything or with anybody that's been on anything. And don't drive. You don't drive, don't get into a car, and you're probably going to be okay. And call us at any time. So there was always this open dialogue with them. And I had my experiences, definitely, from teenage through my mid-20s. I was pretty much experimenting and trying anything and everything, but I always had that security with them. And I tried to abide by their rules of like not getting into vehicles. And so it's like, it's pretty wild, man. It's and that created in me also too of like a little bit of balance within myself of like, oh, this is screwed up. Like I don't need to do this or be around these kind of people. Like I always had that kind of compass and sense. And I think that came from them too, of being open with me about all this stuff versus it being this thing that I had to hide and all that stuff that a lot of kids go through,
Well, that's super healthy, because it's, instead of it being a taboo activity, it's like, hey, do your thing, but please do not do this, because we've seen a lot of bad things happen here. And then that's the real rule. It's the real rule.
Because think about it. I mean, it's like, besides for some kid getting addicted to some drug, the thing that really, and that's devastating. But the 2 things that happens is they either get in a car wreck and die or kill somebody.
Absolutely.
Or they get arrested. And where do they get arrested? They get arrested in a car. Usually.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
They're mobile. They're moving.
Yeah. So they were wild, man. They really they gave me lots of freedom to find myself.
So when did you realize you were going down the singer-songwriter path? When was that for you? Obviously you had experiences younger on, but what was it that allowed you to go, this is the path for me?
Man, for me, it happened really early. I mean, I fell madly in love with music probably around the age of 12 or 13, and I really didn't think about anything else. I really didn't. I mean, it was like all music. I started playing music in a way where, I didn't take lessons. My dad taught me a few things, but I started like creating. I started just like making things up, making songs up from the beginning. And I fell in love with that kind of action of not just like imitating somebody, but like my own voice within it and my own emotions. And it became a way for me to understand my own emotions and have that compass of like, why am I attracted to a certain melody? What about that melody is making me feel a certain way where I'm gravitating towards it? And it became me, how I, how I developed emotional intelligence, and what was going on inside of me was through this music. And so probably 13 or 14 years old, I was like sold. Like I never thought about
That
doing anything else.
that's incredible. That music was basically your teacher, and how you connected with the different tones and the melodies. And that's really interesting, because I honestly, it's a completely different perspective for me, which is what I appreciate. Because listening to Cass's music, if anyone's here, when you listen to Cass's music, it's unique. It is different. Like I was playing it for someone yesterday, and they're like, is it a girl? Is it a boy? I'm like, well, there's like multiple singers. There's stuff going on. His daughter's singing, stuff's happening. And they're like, he's like, oh, wow. He's like, that's a tune. And it's interesting stuff, because it is very unique. And then watching you perform live is even more of a treat, because it's so different.
Right on, man. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. It's music's amazing, man. I think even though, a lot of people don't realize that, maybe not even question some of the things that I'm talking about with like, why do you like a song? What about a song? What is that? What do you like? I mean, you like it, but why do you like it? Well, there's something inside of you. There's an emotion that it's bringing out that you like. You know what I mean? That's why you like a song, because it makes you feel a certain way. You know what I mean? And to me, I've always been so amazed and mesmerized and about that aspect of it, about like, why do you like this? What about this? What about the emotion? What is that bringing up inside of yourself? Where that whole kind of thing, it's like the language of the spirit. You know what I mean?
I was actually just thinking about that, because I was listening to something, and they were talking about how these people were declared theoretically brain dead, and like have Alzheimer's, and like really are struggling. And they would play them music from their childhood, and their brain waves would start activating again. And they're like, that's impossible. But music
Right.
is the last thing to go, because you're right, because it is so deep in the connection and the emotions that we create. So once you realize this, what's the path then? You're 13, 14. What's the path you go on to make this happen?
It was, I mean, probably from the age of 13 till I was, 16 or 17, it was just creating and getting bands together and playing with different groups of guys, and trying to get a band together. You know what I mean? And it's like, I remember, another really interesting aspect of it is like, for a long time, uh probably up till I was like, probably for a couple years, I didn't tell anybody, like as far as the kids I was going to school with, that I played
Yeah.
music. It wasn't something that I showcased or talked about. And it was funny. I really didn't have, because I had such a different life with my parents. It's like we weren't a part of a church. We weren't really that much of a part of the community, because we live in a really like, we live in the Bible Belt, and my parents weren't
Yeah.
religious. So a lot of the community in the area that we lived was through church and stuff like that. And like your parents' relationships. And since my parents were kind of on the fringe, I didn't have a lot of that. So I didn't have a lot of friends. So after, it was like, I think it was 7th grade, I decided to play in the talent show. And what happened then just like totally, kind of it took my love for music and it sort of showed me the power to connect people, because like here I was, this kid, really didn't have a lot of friends. I was a pretty talkative kid, but still I didn't have that connection. And the minute I played at that talent show, it was like my whole world of relationships opened up, where people were curious about me. People were, wanted to be my friend. Girls were interested, all of these things. And it's like, it's so powerful, and you definitely I definitely was just refired up that, hey man, oh yeah, this music thing's gonna take me places and connect me with people. And it's pretty amazing, it's pretty amazing what music can do.
I love how, and the coolest part is that you were not the most accepted. You were struggling with friends, and you go up on stage, and it changes everything. But when I think about it, it probably wasn't your first time on stage. You've been doing the Bard thing for years now.
Yeah,
so,
and I'd even performed with my parents at bars. You know what I mean? So like I was, I mean, I knew how to perform, and I wasn't afraid, and I've always been confident and self-directed, and I always knew who I was because my parents allowed me to be who I was. So like it was pretty cool. And I think that very thing, more than like the music being any good, I think kids just seeing other kids be confident in who they are, and not cocky, but confident of just like being true and authentic, is what kind of connects people, versus
and that's rare when you're an adult. Like, it's hard to find authentic people today. It's hard to find authentic people in high school, let alone middle school, because everyone's always trying to fit in.
Yep.
So for you to stand out like that, but that's what your specialty, and that's what your superpower, and that's what allows you to create this incredible unit.
Yeah, just not be afraid and create, and just be yourself. And I mean, it's much less stressful when you just because I've had moments, and I'm still a human being, and I'm insecure and all that, and I want to be accepted by everybody, and just like all of us, you know what I mean? But man, that's such a stressful kind of position in life to be in, to be trying to make everybody happy or to make everybody like you, versus just putting yourself out there, and the ones that do will, and the ones that won't will go a different direction,
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's so powerful because there's so many of us who are really hiding. We're not being our true authentic selves. And that's why I really wanted to have you on, because I've seen you. You're you. Like, you live out in the country, you're still living that same life. So what was it for you so you get the motivation in 7th grade, and then what allows you to what's the next steps? Where do we go next?
So, I was in various bands, and up till the age of I was 18 years old, I've met my wife. I was 18, she was 17 years old. So we actually, at this point, I'd moved out of the house. Like, I moved out of my parents' house when I was 17. They were going to take a job in some other state with construction work. I didn't want to go. And so I moved in with my sister, and living on my own. And I met my wife, my girlfriend, Cassie. And we got a place together. And I'd already retired from high school early, because I knew that I was like, dude, high school for me was it was all of these people, these teachers that basically were doing the things that my parents didn't do. They were telling me I had to be a certain way. They were telling me that I couldn't have my hair dyed pink. They were telling me that I couldn't have my nose pierced, my eyebrow pierced, a mohawk, like all of these creative, expressive feelings where I was searching for myself. There was so much pressure from society of no, you can't do that. You've got to fit into this box. So I checked out of high school at the end of my sophomore year, went to the local college, got my GED, and started taking some classes there. And then I met my wife, and we lived in Paris. We lived together for about a year, and I was trying to pursue it from Paris, Texas, and it wasn't going anywhere. There's only so many
Yeah.
places to play. So I decided to make the move to Dallas, which is about 2 hours away, and it's the biggest city that's closest to us. And so we made the move, and I ended up getting a band together in Dallas, and we started grinding in Dallas, playing every place that we could play. And that was kind of how I kind of developed, a professional career. Is once I moved to Dallas, I was blessed with all these opportunities to start playing with these bigger bands. My band was called Woodbelly, and we were a trio, and we kind of did like an art rock reggae mix of all sort of, what I do now, mixing different styles. It was definitely like more youthful and energetic and more punk rock influenced and rock and roll mixed with all kinds of different influences. But we got the opportunity to, go on the road, and we were, we were playing with bands like Blues Traveler. We were playing with bands like Yellow Card and Something Corporate. And so we started getting these opportunities just from the buzz that was happening in Dallas. And then, and that lasted for about 6 years or so of grinding.
Oh, wow.
Of grinding in Dallas.
And what was the thought process going on when you were like, we got to get to a bigger city, we got to get to bigger markets, like as you were making that jump? And then obviously as you started doing well in Dallas, you start spreading out even further, going on tour and all. What was that experience like for you? Was that just music, or was it you and Kat? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, the initial move to Dallas was really hard for my wife because she was raised very differently. Like that first, 6-7 years of our relationship, she was 17, I was 18, and she came from a world where you went to college,
Follow the rules. Yeah.
You follow the rules, and you get you a nice brick house and a bunch of debt. and you make a good life for yourself that fits into this box, and that's where she came from. You know what I mean? And I understand that. So that initial move, she didn't know if she was going to go. And I said, look, I'm going to go figure it out, get us an apartment. And if you want to come, you can come. So when I left, I didn't know if she was going to actually come to Dallas. And in a couple weeks, she got the courage up and said, okay, I'm going. And then she moved, and we got an apartment. The funny thing is we really couldn't afford the apartment. And so we had to get a bunch of roommates. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We had 6 people in a 2-bedroom, maybe 800 square foot apartment. And it was me, the drummer that I was playing with, my buddy that was like acting as our manager, and then this guy who was a comedian, and the guy who was managing him, who also was from Paris. Everybody that was in the apartment was from Paris, and we just kind of got together and got this, apartment sort of in the sketchy part of the neighborhood in Arlington, Texas. And we did that, and we made that work for, that was about 5 years we lived in that apartment as we were grinding and playing every bar and every show that we could in Dallas. But it was a big jump, especially for my wife and for me, because I was willing to leave the love of my life behind for this first love, which was music and me pursuing this career. And just praying that my leap of faith and my courage and confidence would inspire her to say, okay, let's do it. And
that's incredible. I love the trust that she had to come with you, and you had the belief of I'm going. It's funny because I had a very similar thing happen to me where it was COVID 2020. I'm like, I'm giving up my lease in Tampa. Let me go I'm going to go to Colorado because I've never been to the mountains. I don't know if I love Tampa. I just I've known Tampa, but I got to try out other places.
Right.
So I decide I'm going to go, and I'm dating this girl for like 2 months. And she's like, we should go on a trip. And I'm like, well, I'm actually going. Like, I'm going away. And I'm like, you should come. And she's like, I don't know. She's back and forth. Yes, no, yes, no. And then at the very end, I'm like, I'll get you a flight wherever, if you want to fly home, like just come with me. And if you don't like it, I'll get your flight home. And she ends up coming. We traveled around for like 8 months, ended up getting a condo in Tampa at the end of the trip. And your concert was the first one we went to, but it was this cool
No,
experience of like, this person trusts me enough to come with me. Like the bond you have there is just, oh, it's out of this world. And you
yeah.
know that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, man. And it's so healthy, to get out, to travel and to get out of your normal zone where you know everything. And it's like you got all those hardwired neural networks of the same old. And it's amazing how many people don't get the opportunity or don't, have the courage to go out and just experience life and try different things and see different cities. It's I think a good majority of the population of the United States, is kind of locked into that kind of mind frame where, it's wild. People in Paris never leaving Paris their entire life.
What's Dallas like? I don't know.
Totally. That's
2 hours.
that's sort of what it was like when me, I had a lot of travel as a child, but Cassie really didn't. She had been to Dallas a few times for whether it was a George Strait concert or something, but it was very, very exotic, just 2 hours down the road. You know what I mean? It's very different. So it's I love it that my kiddos, have pretty much traveled over the world, and they're 13 and 17 years old and have seen every state and countries and stuff like that. So
It's incredible. So you're in Dallas 6 years. Then what ends up happening?
So I get I'm in Dallas pursuing the band thing with Woodbelly, and we're getting some opportunities. We had been on some tours, and it still was really hard. My wife was working as a nanny for a family that had triplets, and she's working 4 days a week, 12 hours a day. There's still a lot of conflict between me and my wife with me pursuing this music thing because she's at work all day and I'm at home, and then I'm, gigging maybe Wednesday through Saturday or something like that. But she and I'm still kind of partying at the same time. So she's seeing that. She's seeing
Because
me
because you're still youthful. That's basically your college time. And
yeah, totally. And we're in Deep Ellum, with all the rock clubs, and it's like stuck in that kind of mind frame of rock and roll and partying and stuff. And so she's seeing that, which was like a side effect of the pursuit of the music career.
Of course.
And so there was a lot of conflict in those first few years in Dallas of like, Cass, you need to get a real job. Still she's kind of hinting at like, maybe you should think about something else, like this might not work out. And my in-laws were of the same mind, like, this
Of
boy,
course.
how's it going to take
He's
care
crazy.
of him? Yeah. What is he doing? So, and then I got my wife pregnant. So and she was my girlfriend at the time. We weren't married yet. And so, we decided to get married, and while she was pregnant, and, I was, I'd never been really into the establishment of like marriage, or because I wasn't religious. I was like, I'm your soul partner. I feel connected to you. Why do we have to make that like illegal or whatever? You know what I mean? Anyways, we got married, and I was so glad we did it. Just seeing the look in people's eyes and how they accepted me and just what that did for her. And there were so many beautiful things that happened after we got married. And then we have my little boy, Evan. I'm 27 at the time. And the reality of me being responsible for someone else kind of hits me, and just like the really like understanding what like love really is. Like, yeah, I'd been in love with Cassie, but then when I had my son, and just seeing that kind of just like, before I had never really thought too deeply about God or about any of that kind of stuff. And then my son's born. I'm like, oh man, there's some really, really heavy, important things going on. Yeah, like this is like I was being introduced to the spirit of like creation by this little boy being in front of me. And
Yeah.
that kind of changed things. I got completely sober. I like
Really?
stopped. Yeah, it was an automatic kind of like switch for me of like, oh, I got to be on my game because now I have a kid that depends on me. I've got to be there. I'm going to be, my wife was working. I was going to be a stay-at-home dad, except when I was playing gigs. And so I cleaned up my life, as far as like drugs and partying and stuff like that. And then an opportunity presented itself about, maybe like 7-8 months after my son was born, where I got this opportunity to try out for a TV show. And the funny thing about that is I was dead set against any kind of like commercial
Corporate, yeah.
opportunity of like sell it out. It was like that whole like punk rock DIY. I don't want to sell out. I want to be in control of my own situation. But this opportunity sort of came up, and like I had entertained the idea of doing it and decided I didn't want to do it. And the guy that was managing me at the time, my friend, he really didn't hear that. He didn't hear my no. He heard maybe. He heard maybe. And so he went ahead and booked it. And literally the day before the audition for the TV show America's Got Talent, this was in 2007, he calls me. He's like, okay, you got that audition. Like, and I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I never agreed to do it. He's like, no. Yeah. And he was basically like, look, I put my neck on the line. My brother-in-law got you a backdoor audition. Like, this is he was angry and he wanted me to do it. And I get it. And so I decided to go to this audition, and I went completely unprepared, not knowing what this was going to be. And I show up to this audition for America's Got Talent. And this is like a backdoor behind the scenes audition. All the producers of the show are there, and you're basically, there's a line of chairs and you walk into an empty conference room and you just do something, if you're a comedian or some kind of circus act. And man, when I showed up, the thing that I was sort of taken back by is like, man, the people that were there for that audition were prepared. Like, these people, there was like circus acts and dance troupes and singing groups and like professionals, and I was just like a gutter punk kind of kid coming off of a gig with cut off blue jean shorts and a dirty shirt from the night before.
Yeah.
And I felt totally out of place. And I went in front of those judges and I just played them a couple original tunes. And they're like, okay. Do you know any covers? And I was like, nah, I don't really know any covers. So they're like, are you sure? Like any kind of modern song you could play? We need to hear that. And I was like, no. They're like, well, do you know anything that a British guy would like? And I was a big Police fan. And so I was like, actually, I do know something that a British guy would like. I know a Police song. And so I played the version that I'd been playing live for a couple of years of Walking on the Moon. And so I played the Police Walking on the Moon, and they really didn't have much of a reaction. They said, okay, thank you very much. And I went about my way and I definitely didn't think I did good. I mean, I was like, I was unprepared. In about 2 weeks, I get a call and they're like, look, we want you to come to Hollywood. You made it. You made it onto the TV.
No way.
You made it onto the TV show. And with that phone call also came this contract that was, about 2 inches thick. And I didn't even read it. I was just like, there's no point in reading this. I didn't have the money for a lawyer or anything. It was like, either I do it or I don't. And so I just signed it and I started that journey, and I went on the TV show America's Got Talent. And the way that was the first song that I played was Walking on the Moon. And lucky enough, YouTube had just started up. It was just getting going. There wasn't a lot of viral sensations, at that time. Man, it was going viral on YouTube. There wasn't a ton of users yet. So I play Walking on the Moon, and I do really good. As far as the judges are concerned, they're like, "Oh, that's great. You did great." And Piers Morgan's like, "Hey, I seen Sting perform that, and you performed it better." Which to me was kind of a joke. It's all entertainment. You know what I mean? The things that
Yeah.
they say on those shows. But what happened is that video got posted online and it went viral.
Oh,
And
wow.
and so in 2007, the summer of 2007, that went viral. And then the next thing you know, I'm doing good on the show. I'm making it through each round. I make it through, the top 100, the top 700, the top 20. Then I get down to the, top 10, make it through that. And then I make it all the way to the top 4. And there's a chance here I'm going to win this TV show and win $1 million,
Oh, wow.
and so I end up not winning. I end up getting second place. But everything had changed. I'd been on national TV for 2 months solid. My
Yeah.
whole world had changed as far as I was selling merchandise online. I had
Oh, wow.
I had more money in my bank account than I'd ever had, and all my bills were paid, and I felt rich. You know what I mean? Even though I wasn't, I had maybe like, 20 grand or something like that. But man, coming from where I came from, to have 20,000 bucks and your bills paid is rich, because we were poor, man. And so I was signed to, out of the TV show, I was signed to a deal with Epic Records, Sony Epic Records, through the TV show. And they were going to make this, this major label release album. And I ended up deciding not to do it. And,
Oh, really?
it was a big deal. It was a $1 million record deal. And I would have got a lot of money out of it. But, when I seen the way that it was going to be managed and that they were in control of the material and my likeness, and they pretty much owned me, I decided to get out of the deal. And so I got out of the deal. I'm living in Dallas at the time. We upgraded from the apartment to like a nice house. You know what I mean? Me and just my family. And I had this vision. I was like, what do I do now? I went through this whole journey with the TV show, and then I ended up producing an album myself and signed with this management company. And then what happens, this is in the matter of 6 months. What happens is the album's successful. It goes to it's like goes to #1 on the main iTunes charts.
Oh, wow.
I sold a bunch of records for the time. I sold like 70,000 records in the first like 2 months or something like that. And it's might not be exactly that, but anyways, it was a big success. But then the guy who's managing me burns me.
No way.
I end up getting into a conflict with him and I fire him. And he had convinced me to run the album through his distribution company. And so instead of paying me for those 70,000 albums or 60, whatever it was, which I should have been getting wholesale back, I should have been getting $5 to $6 a record. So, times $5-6 by 70,000, this dude owed me a lot of money. And he sends me a bill for that exact amount. A bill for the exact amount, and steals the money. And so I'm devastated. I don't have any money. Luckily, in that time frame of that whole thing happening, I had made a decision to use the money that I had to buy some property, and I started building a home. And so we moved back to Paris, Texas. I've got this successful album, this manager's, all of this stuff's happening, where he steals this money, but yet I bought this land and I decided to build a home. And for the next year, I didn't deal with him stealing that. I didn't deal with any of these legal issues or anything. I just totally took the time off. We lived in a camper and we built our house. And it was almost like a long meditation for me to kind of contemplate on my career and what I wanted to do moving forward. I'd been exposed to, the horrible side of the music industry with getting this kind of flash fame and then getting ripped off by a manager. And I built this home, and sort of gave me the foundation to start back up again and just start pursuing my career the way I wanted to pursue it, with me in the driver's seat doing exactly what I wanted to do. And, that's what I've been doing ever since, is just kind of going with my gut and just me being the boss and me doing things the way I want to do it. And, yeah. So that's, and by the time I got the house finished, it was like the end of 2008. We're a year removed from when I released the album, when I was on the TV show. And from there, there's a lot to the story, so I could keep on going.
Gosh, this is incredible. No, but this is what I wanted to hear, because when people look at you, like they look at your Instagram, or they look at you performing, or they look at your family, they look at everything, and they're like, oh, must be nice for Cass. But it's nice.
You must have rich parents.
I'm just being honest with you, because a majority of people who come on the podcast, we look at it and we're like, oh, must be nice. And I'm like, you guys have no idea. That is why I love these podcasts, because it shares the stories of, I was all the way up. I got yanked back down. And now I'm doing it my way, and I'm doing it how I want to do it. Because the thing is, and it's like very similar to like these guys who who Dave Ramsey is?
Yeah, of course.
Like where he does the whole, like he did the real estate, got demolished, bankrupt, and now he's building. But like you build it on your own in control. It takes longer time, and it's like it takes time, but the compounding effect of looking up is like, wow, it's crazy when you're in control of everything. It takes a little bit longer. But
and that's just the way that I am. I have to do that. I realized that after having those experiences is that, nobody knows what I want except me. Nobody's going to be able to, and it's not just, there's going to be guys out there that know how to make more money pursuing this in a quicker amount of time, but are the sacrifices that have to be made for that to exist, am I willing to make those? Am I willing to leave my family? Am I willing to play, songs that I don't like? Am I willing to do all this stuff just all in the name of making more money? And I knew it was really a complex thing where it's like I needed to be in control of the direction that I did this and be able to do anything I wanted at any time. And it's been a constant up and down, man. I mean, I've had so many different, great opportunities that were amazing, that, the ambitious part of yourself says, this is it. It's all up from here. It's from here. We're going to the stars, and then it's just like, okay. And then back down. And, what I've tried to do is I've tried to take on, like, if I'm inspired by a creative idea or a way to pursue my career, to try that out. And as I'm doing it, check in with myself and refine my approach. And that's what I've done for the last, 10, 15 years of like, try something, do it, check in, whether it's even like, here's an example, venues that I want to play. Go out there. I'm playing new venues. I make a list of the venues that I like. And if I experience things that I didn't like about the venue or about the promoter, I'll just check it off my list and I won't go back there. I want to have experiences that I enjoyed and that were good for the whole thing, instead of just doing the same old thing because that's a venue everybody plays. You got to do it. No, you don't. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do anything like that you don't want to do. And you don't have to, like, there's all of these kind of systems set up in every business that people expect you to do things like this or like this or like that. You don't have to do any of that. You can do things your own way. And doing that, you're right. It does take longer, but at least the experience of it, you're getting rid of all of those kind of negative, dysfunctional things that you experienced of like, I don't want to deal with people like that. You know what I mean? Absolutely. I want to deal with people like this. And that's what being self-directed is. And that's what, like, I think people that are really happy and are, people that can really make things happen, that's what they do.
Yeah. And
they
it's
make those hard decisions. They're like, nah, we ain't doing that.
absolutely because it's taking control and it's making your decisions and it's kind of removing liabilities and people who are negative space who won't allow you to create as well as you want to create. Now, I know you mentioned this um, when I was doing my research. What happened with your music career? And then, because you were saying that you would go and just play music and you weren't really dealing with your family. And then
Yep.
you said how you had your family and you wouldn't really deal with music. And then you found a combination of the two. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So, like, coming out of the TV show, coming out of being ripped off, building a home, and then starting my career back, I did exactly what you do. I sort of tapped into those systems that already existed. I got a band together and we went on the road with a bunch of guys and just playing, like, sort of pursuing the career the way that the world says that you pursue a career. You know what I mean? Of like grinding out, 3-4 weeks at a time, playing every venue that you can possibly play. Even though a lot of them were shitty, with all kinds of, excuse my language, but like, pornographic images with drawn on the walls with Sharpies in the green rooms, just like shitty spots and rock and roll kind of bullshit. And so I did that from 2008, 2009 is really probably when I started back up again, up till, probably a good 5 years of me like grinding out with the band. And then a lot of stuff after I'd grind out with the band for a long time, I realized that was just so expensive that I started doing a lot of acoustic stuff to be able to provide more money for the family. Not that I enjoyed it more, but I was like, had the pressures of having kiddos. I'd had another child in 2009. So now I had 2 kids. And so having 2 kids really made me make the decision to play acoustic without the band more often because I could make more money. But I was spending a lot of time by myself, sacrificing all the time with my family because just to grind out and make money. And so in 2014, me and my son went to a music festival. It was called Snowball. It was up on the Canadian-Minnesota border, which was combined with like skiing and snowboarding with a little music festival. And during that trip, I had a couple pretty bad wrecks. I had no experience snowboarding or skiing. And it was super cold. I was super overweight. I was like 330 pounds and I was on a snowboard and the temperature was like -15. It was like ice, super fast. So I ended up injuring myself on that trip. And I thought I just pulled some muscles. Like I wasn't like, it was a weird injury. It was like, I just didn't feel right. I performed after I had injured myself and then I went home. And in the following like 2 or 3 weeks, I started noticing that I was having a hard time performing. I was having a hard time singing. And that kind of progressed, the anxiety and the stress hit of like, man, what's going on? I can't sing like I normally can. I could talk, but the minute I would try to like really project my voice, I would have this like clamping muscle kind of feeling, clenching tension kind of thing going on. And I couldn't perform and I didn't know why. And so like I had 6 months worth of gigs booked out. I was doing a bunch of university tours and a bunch of different stuff. And I was forced, I actually tried to do the university stuff about 3 or 4 weeks after that happened. And in the middle of it, a few gigs into it, I was just like, I can't do this. Like, I can't perform these songs. I tried everything, like detuning my guitar to a lower key and stuff and moving songs to where I wouldn't have to sing as hard just because I needed the money. I was just going to get through this stuff. And I had this kind of breakdown where I realized that something's going on. I can't perform. I'm injured. Something's happening. And so I ended up canceling the rest of that tour. And I went to UT Southwestern Medical Center to get my voice checked out and just basically do some investigating of what's going on. And I ended up having some nerve damage in my neck and the top of my
Oh,
back.
wow.
And I canceled pretty much the rest of the year. And I started taking physical therapy and voice therapy and doing everything that I possibly could. I was doing acupuncture sessions and everything to try to get back to it. But in that moment of me not being able to sing and kind of losing losing that ability to perform music, I kind of lost my mind because I was so wrapped up in that and the idea of that being who I was and being my value as a human, that there was like a death that was happening. And I was fighting it at first. I was cursing the world about it. And after I got through, a couple weeks of that kind of, losing my mind, I sort of took a look around me, and I had this moment of clarity where I realized everything that I'd been sacrificing and how I had over-identified with music and singing. I had over-identified with that, and I had like made that who I was, or at least I'd convinced myself that that's
Yeah.
who I was. These things that I was doing is who I was. And I started looking for a way to be able to fix that. And I had all kinds of therapy and all kinds, psychological, emotional, and everything.
Yeah.
I was searching. I mean, I was, trying to figure out what was happening in my mind, because I felt totally unstable and I didn't know how I was going to provide for my family. And I had lost my passion for what I was into and how I'd over-identified with that. And I ended up, starting to write songs, not really even being able to sing. I started writing these songs, and I came up with this concept, and I sort of built back, a new foundation of me pursuing this, of like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore the way that I was doing it. I couldn't sing the way I used to sing either. So I had to relearn how to sing in a different way.
Oh, wow.
And with that, came all kinds of like ideas of, and sort of clarity of like, even being able to see that I had separated my family and my music, and that I had pursued music in an unhealthy way where I was sacrificing my health, sacrificing my relationships, all for this, like, gotta go get it, all for this hustle, for this passion for music. And I realized that the value that I really have when everything's gone is my relationships. It's not me playing music. I love playing music, but it's not who I am. Who I am is, does my son like me? Does my son know me? Does my wife like me? Do we have good relationships? That's where your value is. Do you have friends? Do they like you? Do you bring value to them other than just money? It's like I sort of I had those realizations, and I started pursuing my career in a different manner and from a different place, where I wanted to not sacrifice my time with my family. I wanted to pursue my music career with them involved. And in order to do that, I had to perform less, because the family wasn't going to want to be on the road, half of the year or more than half of the year. So it created a lot more balance with how I was pursuing it. And it gave us a lot more time together, where, that's all we got is our time. I mean, before we know it, we're not going to be here, bro. I mean, it's like,
absolutely.
That's sort of, has been my foundation of like what I want to do, is just placing the most importance on us being together and also enjoying what we're pursuing. So, and those have been the kind of things that I've used to decide what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you share something like that. I appreciate the vulnerability. I appreciate you sharing that, because when we really think about it, you're probably sitting there going, yeah, I'm a singer because I want to be with my family. And you're like, because of my voice hurting and like these nerve damage and this stuff, I actually am forced to be with my family. And it's this ironic thing of like, I was doing this to hang out with you, and now I'm hanging out with you more. And it's like, is this what what it's really all about. And then once you come to that realization, and I feel like a lot of people have identity issues because they're so aligned with their work, and especially someone who's a musician who's
You're
like, this is
selling yourself like you're selling a product that's your identity. It's a dangerous mind game that artists play when you're selling your likeness. You know, another really unhealthy thing that happens is you start to have a fixed identity. So imagine you're going to sell yourself, and it's the year 2008, and you're selling this image of who you are and what you are. And you start to over-identify with the very things that you're starting to sell, and you start to believe that that's who you are. That's what happens. That's what happened to me, you know, as a musician and as a songwriter. I was selling myself as something. I was consuming all of that content and all of that branding and all of that identity, and I convinced myself that that's what I was. And so many artists, that's why so many artists have so many psychological issues and drug abuse issues, because you lose yourself. You lose the natural ability to grow and to change, which is what we're all doing. You know, it's like that fixed identity thing is kind of really, really dangerous. You know, it's really hard, and it's hard not to get caught up in that web. It's
very unhealthy. And there's many of us who are like, you probably have a friend who's a teacher, and they think they're going to be a teacher their entire life. And there's these issues left and right with everybody. And it's really the identity, as Cass is saying here, it's got to be fluid. It's got to be changing. It's got to be operational, because we're not always the same person, and we're always changing. So Cass, that kind of leads me into what's coming out for you. What's in the future? I know you have a new album coming, and like, what's that? What's the reason behind that? What's that all about?
Yeah. You know, okay. So like this is kind of a project. The project's called Boots Rock Reggae, and it's something that's sort of a long time coming that I didn't do for a lot of time because I was afraid of the idea. I didn't want to ever be labeled as someone that was a cover artist, because I was a songwriter, you know, but yet I had that experience at the beginning of my career where I was exposed to millions of people on America's Got Talent doing covers in my own way. And I was really successful. And it kind of like, I was like, but I'm a songwriter. I have words and I have songs that I want to tell about my story. And so for, you know, from 2007 all the way up till this last year, how long is that? What is it? That's like 15, or how long? 15, 13?
15 years.
15 years. So for 15 years, I was almost dead set against doing covers. I put a few out here and there, but I was like, always wanted to keep it original. And, you know, I finally got to this place, you know, in this last couple of years where it's like, I no longer really worry or care about how like other people see me versus my experience with this music. And I also, what I wanted to do with this, it's basically an album where I'm taking all of my favorite country and older rock tunes, and I'm doing these reggae Cass Haley versions of these tunes. And another motivation for doing this is me being in Paris, Texas, being raised in the South, being, you know, country is a part of my culture. And my parents always loved country and bluegrass and blues music. And that's what I was raised on. And I've been doing, you know, reggae influenced music and was sort of known for doing reggae. And I always felt misunderstood wherever I went, because here I was, this country boy, in all reality, doing reggae. And for a lot of people, it just didn't fit, you know, for them to like realize, they were like, oh, this sounds nice, but what is this? Like, I don't know. Like they, you know, everybody would like, you know, for a reggae artist just to be someone that's from Jamaica with dreadlocks or whatever, you know what I mean? And I get that. So for a long time, I've always felt a little misunderstood. And because people's minds are so closed, you know, and that's a lot. That's the truth. It's like, you know, a lot of people want this in a particular box.
Well, it's because, sorry to cut you off there, but like you're saying, it's hard for someone to comprehend someone like Shaquille O'Neal, how they're like, he's a basketball player and he's a business guy and he's a TV host. And I
Yeah.
think that's cool to have those multiple identities of like, yo, we're not just one person. We
Yeah.
could play
Well,
all the different stuff. Yeah.
and for
I love
me,
that.
like for me, it was like I've always loved all different styles of music, and I never looked at it. I never looked at it from a perspective of like only people from South Africa can play these rhythms. I understood that music was this thing that was always influencing other areas, and whether it was, 500 years ago, travelers coming through and picking up a new riff. And then it was like all of the styles of music that we have today have been influenced by different regions and the mixtures of cultures. And it's like, it's this growing kind of thing. It's never this fixed thing.
Yeah.
Even in the industry, we have these genres and categories. And every now and then you'll see a new genre and a new genre. Now you're starting to see it progress even more, whether there's hip hop, which is rap country, or like, even reggae as a genre is so heavily influenced by so many different worlds. 1950s R&B influenced reggae a lot. A lot of African music influenced reggae, Cuban music. Like it was such a hodgepodge, and all music styles really are that.
Yeah.
Whether it's Western swing or whether it's rock and roll that came from blues. There's just so many examples of all of these. Everything that we think of as a style is really just a mixture and inspired by other things. So that's the way I'd always thought about music. So it wasn't hard for me to just mix it all up and do whatever I wanted to, but it was hard for people. So what I decided to do, I wanted to build a bridge between where I'm from and my roots and a lot of the people that I'm surrounded by, and inspire them to listen to songs that they love and know, where those neural networks are developed, and to introduce them to what I would do with those very beautiful songs and record them and produce them my way. And to show that of like, oh, a good song is a good song. And you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's where the idea of Boots Rock Reggae came. And so about 6-7 months ago, I had decided that the way that I was going to pursue this was, instead of doing your typical kind of album promotion thing of hiring a publicist and trying to get radio or trying to do this and that and spending a bunch of money, I was like, I'm going to put all my time into doing reels and being creative every day and showing people these creations every day, coming in here, taking a song that maybe I just listened to and never played, and just producing a little demo version of it on Instagram and TikTok. And so in the matter of like 8-10 weeks of me doing that, started popping off, and I started getting a viral video and a second viral video. And the next thing you know, I go from like 17,000 Instagram followers to 124,000 Instagram followers. And it took on, and people identified with it, because they love these songs. And it was a doorway to introduce these people to my sound and what I do with music and my love for mixing styles, And so that's this new album, man. Boots Rock Reggae, instead of Roots Rock Reggae, Boots Rock Reggae. So
I love that. I'm so excited. I love this. This sounds absolutely incredible. And where can people, when's this releasing? When can people find it?
So the album's coming out on July 28th, and it's going to be released digital. So Spotify, Apple Music, all of your digital distribution channels and stuff like that. And the idea too is like, this is volume 1. So I'm going to be making multiple volumes of this. And then like volume 1 and volume 2 will be released together as a double vinyl. And I'm not sure if we're going to do CDs or not, because I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have CD players anymore, but yeah, man, it's been fun. And it's, the greatest thing about this also, it's been a really great experience removing myself from some of the emotional aspects of my own songs and how vulnerable and over-identified I was with this being my song and my story, and then just like taking these great songs and creating with them on a daily basis and just producing versions of it has been really, really fun for me. And it's been liberating. of just learning to follow my gut, because like literally when I would make an album, like a lot of people were like this, you would make an album, you would work on it way too long. You would like,
Yeah.
you would not really,
It's the perfectionism.
yeah. Well, and it's like, what idea are you going for? Like the first idea could have been as good as the next, but this has just been really cool with me being able to like, accept my best in every moment instead of thinking I can always do better. Well, no, like, and it's really been healthy for me as a creator and an artist to have this kind of receptive kind of thing of like, I'm creating every day and I'm just putting it out there for people to see and to judge whether they like it or not. It's been really healthy for me versus withholding all of this and thinking I have this masterpiece. It's not about a masterpiece. It's about presence and creating, and it being a receptive thing where you're creating value for people. People love seeing people create. They, even if the value they get out of it is like a negative one, that's still a kind of thing where they're like, oh, who the fuck is this dude? You know what I mean? This dude's ruining country music. That's entertaining too. You know what I mean? It's like
the best part I think about it is that I could imagine that your lifestyle's changed a little bit. You know what I mean? So you're going from this point of, I have to put all my eggs in one basket in hoping when I drop the album that it's amazing. You are getting instant feedback over the past 2 months. Like that is incredible to see, because people don't realize that whenever, like, even when I do this podcast, I know sometimes I'm bad, sometimes I'm good. I don't know, but I know I need more reps. So as we get more reps, and you're getting reps every single day, instead of doing them in private, you're just sharing with people. Not a big deal. It's cool. It's like, yo, I'm on the journey. Check me out. Like,
totally, man. And it's so healthy, man. It's like a lot of creators get so caught up when they're withholding this. And it's because they have so much creative energy and they're just expelling all of this and they're not getting fed anything back. And it's really been a good experience for me of just letting the stuff go. And of course, I'm trying to do my best every day. I mean, I'm not phoning it in at all. I'm enjoying, but I'm also, I set it up where I'm accepting what my best is. Even if there's insecurities about it, like, that was my best. That was my best, and I'm putting it out there.
But the other good thing, and people talk about this a lot, is if you only showed up on days when you were your best, then maybe you're only showing up twice a week. You're getting the reps of going every single day. And then it's like, hey, public, this is what I got. If you're interested, cool. If you're not, all good. I just want to share this journey, because the other really cool part about this, and I found this from podcasting, is as you're recording these, you can see yourself on your own journey. And then you have random people from, I don't know, Egypt or Ireland watching you going like somewhere where you might never play. And they're like, yo, Cass Haley, like, that's what's up.
Dude, we live in an amazing time. I mean, it's like, I love playing live, but I love creating content. I mean, I absolutely love it. And honestly, the bang for my buck, as far as me getting to be here at the house and getting to be with my family in a comfortable environment and creating and being, and it being received, it's so powerful. And there's so much that, creators, I think, can benefit from just creating more content and also creating a system in which you have a positive relationship with that. You know what I mean? That's a really difficult thing where people get wore out,
So I completely agree. So like the way I do it is I'll take our podcast and then I can clip it up. So I'll clip it up and we'll have 10 clips from that. So it's not like I'm sitting here exhausting. And I say this not from me being like, hey, this is how I make a podcast. It's for the audience to sit there and go, oh, you don't have to sit there and scream videos every single day? No, you can chop this up and you can post it over the 2 weeks or whatever it is, and people can share it, and it's fine. It's just, as it becomes more part of your journey, you're just like, okay, I'm going to film myself when I sing this one song. Fine. Next, move on.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's very powerful, man. I mean, I for years, I've been a big fan of Gary Vee for a long time, like everybody, because
Yeah.
he also resonated with that kind of spirit of like, fuck everything else and do whatever the fuck you want to do and do it your
Yeah.
best. I love that, but I kind of like watched him talk about creating content for a long time and was like kind of resistant about it and felt like
Absolutely.
I wasn't like I was afraid to just put myself out there more often because I was wanting to be seen a certain way versus just be seen, even though people say I'm an authentic guy. I was still afraid to be seen the way that I am. You know what I mean? Like that much of just like, do you? I'm convinced, man, for all of you people watching this, listen to this, whatever. I'm convinced that if you're creative, and when I say creative, I mean if you're a gardener, if you're a construction, if you're what I think we're all kind of creators. And I believe that there's millions of people that are going to resonate with pretty much every one of us. As I'm scrolling through TikTok, I'm so amazed by the different little multiverses that exist of people that identify with certain things. Whether it's there's a guy in Alaska that sits by this river and plays this little pan drum, and he's got this massive following. It doesn't matter if you play spoons, if you do drywall, if you are somebody that's a master at painting, like construction or building this or that. There is a world out there that wants to see you do that. It's incredible.
And it's because like 99% of people are consuming when they should be producing. So
Yeah.
sit there, figure out a way to produce your content, share it. And the best part is, if nothing happens, you at least documented part of your journey. So you can always look back on that. And also, once someone finds you and there's like 100 other pieces, it's like, okay, now I'm in the Cass Haley spiral. Like I said, Cass Haley 5 times. I looked you up on Instagram. Now it's just I'm gonna see you for the next week and a half, and then when I start posting and you're there, I'm gonna start seeing you even more. So it's just a spiral. But the thing is that you have to produce the content for it at least to occur for someone to find you, because like Cass was saying, America's Got Talent. He had to put himself out there. That was a big put out. I'm sitting at home. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
Just say something to the camera and say, and it's great.
It's as powerful as America's Got Talent. That's what you don't realize. It's like the potential, Brent. Dude, it's like I had so many great opportunities. I was, another thing that came up, I won this songwriting competition and got this job with Lincoln, the car company, to film multiple commercials and had this massive campaign. And I was in this commercial and they used my song. They made this documentary and it was a big job. This happened right before 2020 hit. But it's like, people look at that and it's like, oh man, that's big time. You got this Lincoln kind of sponsorship. They gave you a car and gave you a job for these commercials, used your song. But it's like, even something that big pales into comparison as creating content for 8 weeks and it being visible in people's comfort. You know what I mean? Like, this is the most powerful thing beyond a record deal, beyond anything that could happen for your career. If you're already pursuing a career, creating content's not an option. It's the most powerful thing you can do. Just put yourself out there. Do you show yourself doing whatever you do, and you'll get better at producing it in a way where people find more value in it. It's so powerful.
Absolutely. And it's the more and more reps you get, you learn from it. And it's just, you're getting real-time feedback and nothing can beat that. So Cass, where can people find you? You have been amazing. Thank you so much for all your time, by the way.
Oh man, thank you. Yeah, man. So we're you can find me, you can check out my website, CassHaley.com, Cass Haley Music on Instagram. I'm pretty much on all the stuff, YouTube, TikTok, all of the platforms. You can also see me live. We're gonna start back up on the road in September. We're gonna be touring with the Original Wailers, which is members of Bob Marley's band, and we'll be touring throughout the Midwest, Northeast, and Florida. We're coming back. You should come hang out when we're there.
Absolutely, let's do it.
And then we'll be touring a little bit in October. So September, October, take a look at my website. You can sign up for emails that we don't spam people. You know, we send them out whenever we're touring and stuff like that. But yeah, man, you know, I'm pretty much on Instagram every day, posting something, say what's up.
Amazing.
Thank you for reaching the end of the podcast. For that, we'll give you a complimentary coaching session in the link below with Edwards Consulting. Hope to see you there and have a great day and keep clocking in.